A phenomenon in life is that history tends to repeat itself. Call of Duty games, wars, and my League of Legends match history are 3 examples. So when I give you these 3 pictures, I want you to tell me what the difference is. Nothing. The difference is nothing. I died 5 seconds after each of these. Sounds like a fun time, right? And let me tell you, this is a very common experience playing the CDDA challenge in Project Zomboid, where you spawn in drunk, wet, no clothes on, a massive shard of glass in your nether regions, and oh yeah, your house is on fire. But we're taking it a step further, doing the CDDA challenge and using the Day 1 mod simulating the first day of the apocalypse, making the world more dynamic and chaotic alongside our terrible start. With that being said, let's start this terrible nightmare of a challenge I've created. Attempt 1 of the double challenge went about as well as you'd expect. I spawned in a building on fire where my 3 roommates didn't spawn on safe ground, and all burned to death, hearing their terrifying and not so hopeful screams to escape. I quickly ripped up some curtains and wrapped my wound, climbing out the window to look at the world just filled with zombies, so I hobbled and dipped between them, seeing civilians fight with melee weapons and guns alike, getting overpowered at every turn. There was no shelter and no refuge, so I just ran, hopping large fences to escape just to have more zombies on the other side. I eventually found my way to an all-you-could-eat restaurant and realized if I could cross through and close the front door and the back door behind me, I could buy myself a little bit of time. The problem was the back door was open and not safe at all, so this action ended in my death. 2 hours from the start of the apocalypse, I was already dead. I decided maybe doing them at the same time was a bit much to start out with, so let's separate them and isolate our downfalls. Of course, this made more problems. I want to keep the character creation random to enhance the experience of a random person being in this situation, and great practice for when we use a well-built character. This was a terrible idea. It went about as well as every first attempt goes, grabbing a saucepan, leaving the burning house, hobbling 100 feet, and then, well, that sucks. Since escaping the house first was easy and fleeing the zombies was next, that would be our goal. Fleeing the first set of zombies. My assumption was to use line of sight to my advantage. Basically, if I could just get a bunch of zombies to follow me, then cross through a building, like the first time, but just a bit better, everything would go fine. It turns out being drunk, injured, and in a burning house makes zombies a bit of a bigger deal than normal. Of course, as a 5-star chef that I am, I turned the zombie into a pan and plank sandwich by grabbing a pan and going to town, and by town I mean 3 swings in, my muscles started to strain. Build 42 of Project Zomboid clearly wasn't about fighting. With the strand arm, after about 10 swings, the zombie died, but it took far, far too long, so I had to run. I'm sure you can guess how that went. The only thing I could think of that I haven't done yet is just run as fast as I can to avoid the zombies in the first place, which combined with being sick, coughing, and sneezing all the time made it more just like hobbling and dying a lot. What I came up with after my experiment was to tend my wound as fast as possible so I could jog. Just like always, I started in my wonderful, beautiful, burning house. I quickly left to get ahead of the zombies and avoid the fire. From there, we just started walking. Luckily for us, one and only one zombie was following us, so we quickly gave them the stomp treatment and took their clothes to wear and rip up. This gave us the gift of bandages. Now our balls were wrapped and protected. With our newfound leg movement, I started jogging through the forest until I found a zombie-ridden farmland, and God knows why there were so many. Eventually, my legs gave out, making me slower, so I went into the only house around us to get a second to rest my legs, and upon opening the door, there were about 20 zombies waiting on the other side. As sad as this was, there was a glimmer of hope, with a pinch of salt. The hope was if I could get that far, I could do it again. The salt was the next 3 runs ended before I could really get out of the first house. First, my strained and weak arm couldn't kill a zombie, and the window was too hot from the fire, so I fell backwards and died. Second, a burning zombie chased me through my burning home and set me on fire. And, well, after the 3, I walked outside and immediately got bit. So, Yeah, with all these deaths, a plan formed. First, we spawned and ripped the curtains off the window for bandages to wrap our balls. Then we got moving, pushing through the forest like a modern survivalist channel, except without all the things to keep me alive. We kept pushing forwards until we found a house surprisingly not filled with zombies, and our way up was relatively the same, killing 2 zombies on the outside and 1 on the inside, giving us some nice clothing to wear and some more rags for our injury. With an additional zombie downstairs and 2 zombies upstairs killed, the entire house was safe and quiet. A nice, needed change of pace. If I just stayed here, I would die in a few days from lack of food, but I would consider this a success. To celebrate, as anyone would, I traveled out to take some more land. And that dream was shut down quite fast, as the barn I found was not only flooded with zombies, but when they chased me away, my legs started to become strained and tired, so I couldn't run anymore, leading to the same event like everyone. Now it's time for the Day 1 mod, the more chaotic, drunk dad of the CDDA challenge. Starting in a clean house, 2 roommates, and no fire. A far better start than the other challenge. Of course, starting by collecting anything valuable, which there was nothing of value other than a guitar that I would be using as a weapon. Walking outside, my roommates were fighting and dying. The world was in total chaos, with car alarms sounding, gunshots ringing, and hordes of zombies that I've never seen so big. Fighting with other civilians seemed to be a terrible option and a lost cause, as they would always get overwhelmed from all the noise being created. I also have a sneaking suspicion that the government was behind all of this, like the metal bats, blades, among all the rest of the easily obtainable melee weapons were switched out with soft pool noodle foam. The massive horde was a clear problem, so I snuck around and found a cop car, pre-hot-wired, making me wonder if the cops were really cops, or just doomsday preppers pretending to be cops. In any regard, the car was mine. I just drove and drove, hoping to find something. I don't know what I was looking for, but with enough driving, I stumbled upon a radio tower, with a few guys just hanging around on the outside. Of course, looting was the reason to come here, but as I got closer, I saw about 15 escaped prisoners explode and slowly burn to death, while getting shot at by the guys that we saw initially. I looted quickly and found nothing, so I left, getting back into my car to find some dead military far up the dirt road. Getting back in the car was not an option, as it couldn't move us forward. So, from now on, we're on foot. Surprisingly, this late into the day, I found more survivors. I'd assumed they would all be dead by this point. This seemed like the perfect situation. Now with a group of survivors, I could survive with them and everything would work out. If they made it this far, they must be doing something right. And then, I made a mistake. Yeah, I shot that guy, and his friends weren't too happy about it, causing them to shoot and chase me around the field. Of course, the melee guy was far faster than me, as I still had a shard of glass in my balls. With my horrendous aim, it took over 3 mags to kill them all, and with the loud gunshots created, zombies were most definitely on their way. Just in time to stop me from patching up my laceration, bullet wound, and thoroughly scratched body from the humans, causing me to bleed out 12 hours into the first day of the apocalypse. Now it's time for the real challenge, because now I have a plan. We started with our build, called the One to Survive, giving us some useless negatives and some positives, spawning in our burning house one more time, grabbing a knife right away, then taking down the curtains to wrap my wounds. Hopping out the window, there was a glaring lack of zombies around that I was sure wouldn't last very long, so I ran across the street to loot the house that was not in the process of burning down. I found no loot, but I exchanged my knife and a zombie's brain for some clothes. Running out the house, we were looking for essential supplies we could get quickly, like food and water, before all hell broke loose. Coming across some fighting survivors outside of a home filled with zombies that I quickly crossed through. The realization that quick supplies was probably not an option occurred, so the next plan was get a car. Police cars were likely the best option from our trials earlier, seeing that they were already hotwired. Luckily for us, the first one we found was right up the road, and hotwired like we assumed. The main problem with this was the car was constantly beeping, meaning every zombie was on their way to wherever we were driving all the time. With a CDDA start, you spawn in plastered, so driving was very unresponsive, causing me to destroy my car. At this point, the zombie population was rising dramatically, so from this point forward, it was a dodging game, slipping by 40 plus zombies in a driveway to get into a forest. Thankfully, on the other side, there was military gunning down the zombies' forest, so I hopped into their car, leaving them all to die with the objective to get a moment of peace. I tried taking a back road to McCoy Logging Co., but my car was quickly stopped by either the worst placed trees or the worst placed road I've ever seen. Once again, I had to ditch the car. Now traveling through another forest, mostly of dead trees, but it was finally quiet, clear, and peaceful. Of course, minus the rapid gunfire from civilians getting mauled and the chopper gunners flying overhead. Not to mention the shuffling and the darkness all around me. But eventually the forest stopped, leaving us on another road filled with, surprise, more zombies. This is also when the military started dropping gas, which was very helpful as it killed large packs of zombies in a few seconds. Combined with my overexertion, I could only walk, so the gas killing zombies was very, very important in our survival. Alongside 7 military operatives securing a hole in the fence, which was immensely helpful. Till I crossed through and watched 90% of the zombies chasing me and the military behind me get bombed and incinerated, almost catching me in the blast radius as well. There was a last stand that I joined, until I realized it was the last stand, so I quickly left and watched all of them get overrun. Hundreds of zombies getting gunned down, and 60 plus chasing me around my last hope, a fireman's truck. And with a gunship passing over me, killing 98% of the zombies chasing me, I was filled with hope seconds before my own death. Surviving 9 stressful hours of the worst start in Project Zomboid. So with the precision of a drunk 8-year-old, we precisely calculated what makes Build 42, the CDDA challenge, and the Day 1 mod hard. They have zombies in them. But on a real note, the humans are more deadly than the zombies, if you get on their bad side. Seems like a running theme. Or maybe, history repeating. Thank you everybody for watching to the end. It truly means the world to me. Oh yeah, I might start a Patreon because I need water and YouTube isn't giving it to me. So, with that being said, stay hydrated and I'll see you in the next one.